Hello everyone, finally back again. So I guess I'll start this by explaining what's going on here with the mic setup. So this is my transmitter for my wireless mic setup, but it's also a mic built into this box. However, I usually use like an extension mic called a lapel mic or lav mic and run it like under my shirt and then clip it onto here, which is what you're used to seeing, but I lost that part. So now I'm using the transmitter's built-in mic on it clipped to here, which is this ugly brick. It is what it is. That's all I have for now. Otherwise, I'd have to use the camera's built-in mic, which is not great. Anyway, so today we're going to be doing AN lines. I already did one just to make sure I know how to still do it. So this is the one that's going to be going to the Venturi, pulling vacuum on here. So what I'll need to be doing is finishing the two that will be going to the valve cover here. And to do that, bring you guys here, I will need to add these bulkhead fittings around here. So there's going to be two of them here. One thing I forgot to get though is a plug to block off the original crankcase ventilation. I mean, it is what it is for now. I don't know if I'm going to just jam something in there and JB weld it shut, or maybe get a tap and tap holes in there to be able to have a threaded plug. I haven't decided yet, but that'll be a future problem. There's a lot of options I can do. I think the first thing I'm going to do is prep the valve cover and get these going, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill the holes, use the bulkheads here, and I'm also going to be JB welding them in place at the bottom where the threads are, just to make sure that the nuts can't come off. Now, even if they were to come off, there's a bit of a backup. So right where this plate is right here, that's where those are going to be. And this plate's still going to go back in place. So if the nuts were to fall off, they would just be retained into this area here. So I'm going to just set you guys up on the tripod here, start prepping this, drill my holes, and then go from there. So we're going to start by taking this little plate here off. It's a lot thinner than I was expecting. Ugh, okay, I'm gonna get some gloves. I'll be right back. All right, gloves, brake clean. I'll try my best to clean out the area here as much as I can. Okay, so got our bulkheads here. One needs to go there, and one needs to go there. And to mark our spots, I'm going to use the auto punch here. Just going to try and get a good visual. One has a lot of room for error, the other does not have as much room for error. So what I'm going to do is take the nut, try to hit the center of it. So here it is with the holes drilled. It was very messy and I still have some cleaning to do. The whole thing in these areas filled up with just shards of aluminum, like dust pretty much. So I've already cleaned that out. A bunch of it's sitting in that bucket there. So those are the 2 holes. And then now I'll be able to feed the bulkheads through. But before I button those up, I'm going to grab a sanding disc and try and flatten out. I don't know if it picks up very well on camera, but there's these like a waffle pattern in the valve cover here. So I want to flatten that out to give like a nice flat area for the gasket to press against too. Got this little roll lock adapter here with a 60 grit, which should be coarse enough. So 60 grit wheel on there. Might not fit very well, but we'll give that a go. Actually, I don't have a die grinder at the moment. I sold it with a plan to upgrade to the Milwaukee M12 one, but I haven't bought it yet. So for now, the drill should work. Wasn't really the best tool for the job, but it's all I had. But just flattened it out, and it should give enough area for the gasket to seal onto nice and tight. This one was extra tricky to get into because, as you can see, I just slightly tapped this area here and here, but I think we'll be okay. So now, you clean this off one more time, get all these little shavings out of here with compressed air, and then we'll get ready to put the bulkheads in. So I probably made way more JB Weld than I needed to. It is what it is. So the way these work here, you have your gasket, goes in first. Take some JB, kind of smear it around the area here where I just ground flat. Hoping it helps seal and also works as kind of like a Loctite. Fire that on. So with how many times I've gotten JB Weld stuck on my skin, you'd think I'd learn. Let's get some gloves on. Look at that, JB Weld all over my other hand, which doesn't have the glove. Beautiful. Just gonna grab the sockets that I need to tighten those down. I have my AN specific wrench for the side that you'll actually see. I'm going to use an adjustable on the inside because you won't really be able to see it. Well, actually, no one will ever be able to see it. Here we go. Got the 2 bulkhead fittings installed, snugged up, all nice. No marring on this side, and that was with the help of the aluminum AN wrench. So it's soft, just like all aluminum is, and I'm not going to say it eliminates the chances of marring up the fitting, but it significantly reduces it versus the harder steel that the other wrenches are made of. So I don't have the gasket yet to put onto here to have this set in place. So what I'm going to do for now is rest it on top of the existing valve cover to get an idea of approximately of the distance for this from this line to the oil catch can. So let's go do that. So my idea of resting the valve cover on top of here didn't really work out because of the feed line and the turbo and stuff. So anyways, I just took some tape, rested it down, made some marks to line up with where these should be. And the nice part about like how long this line is going to be, if I make it too long, it's not really a big deal. So I'm going to err on the side of caution and make them a little bit on the longer side. Another thing too is I have two different 90s. I have these like, I guess, more traditional 90s. And then I have these tighter 90s. There's not a huge difference. Like, I only would save half an inch on the height. So I have 3 of the tight ones, which I kind of wanted to keep together on the reservoir here. But yeah, anyway, so these, they should fit, they should clear the hood. I kind of eyeballed it and it looks like they don't go any higher than this here. If they do, it's like the tiniest bit. So I'm hoping it clears. If not, then all I'm gonna probably have to do is just flip the hoses. So then these 90s would be on the catch can and then the tighter 90s would be over there. Worst case, I got to buy 2 more fittings. Not the end of the world. So now we'll get going on finishing these. So what's going to make this a lot easier is these cutters here. So these are specifically for hoses. These are the Vibrant shears, they're called. It allows for very, very nice clean cuts. This isn't really the greatest example because I was testing something on it, so it is frayed because I had put a hose end on it, just trying stuff out. But the cut itself is pretty clean. That's kind of what I'm trying to showcase here. You'll see it better once I dive more into it. So another thing that helps out is to have a bench vise. This is not my bench vise, I'm borrowing it. And unfortunately this little metal jaw piece here is missing on the other side, so that's what the wrench is in place for, is to kind of hold this in place. It kind of works, gets the job done, and that's kind of all I need it for now. And I also have these aluminum pieces that go here to also help to not mar up the fittings. So without further ado, I'll get you guys on the tripod, cut the hose to length, and we'll finish making it on the other side there. Not the best angle, but I don't really have the space to set my tripod any higher because the legs would be too wide for the area it's in. And if you're wondering why this pile of rags is here, it's because the turbo blanket's beneath there, and I kept rubbing my arms and hands on it, and it's made of fiberglass, and I kept getting little like pieces stuck in my hand. So that's there for now. And just like that, does a nice clean cut, pretty straightforward. Not a whole lot of pressure is required. And you can see both ends are clean and actually usable for fittings. So I'm gonna get the fitting ready. So you take the nut, and what's kind of interesting about these AN fitting nuts that's a little bit different from what I'm used to is they're threaded on this end, which is what goes onto the hose, but it's a reverse thread, left-hand thread. So you try to just carefully put it on there without fraying up the sheathing too much, or the braiding. And you give it some pressure, twist counterclockwise as you're giving it pressure. And it will bite onto the hose. And without too much trouble, it'll eventually bottom out, which is going to be hard to show on camera. You want to make sure that it bottoms out. Once you have a fitting, you'll see what I mean. And then you set up your really janky vise. Something like that. Would also help if this vise was bolted down, but it's not, because it's not mine. And you grab your fitting, you gotta lube it up. So this is kind of major key. So I'm just using PB Blaster. So you lube up the end here. So when you press it in, it kind of goes nicely. And you want to hold your other end of the hose to make sure it doesn't push out. But generally, once you get a few threads started, it crimps enough and holds the hose. And I think the fact that it's reverse threaded on, like the nut itself is reverse threaded onto the hose, is also helping hold it into place. So once it gets a bit too tight, that's when you just grab your wrench and you finish it off. There are some companies who make specific lubricants for this. I don't really know that there's really a benefit to that. I guess the idea is that it will eventually dry up and not affect whatever the hose is being used for, so not contaminating it with an alternate fluid. But I'll be cleaning these out a little bit before I permanently install them. All right, it's a new day. Got a new mic, so hopefully things are better now. The whistling you're hearing right now isn't because of the mic. The heat came on right as I started the video. But you should still be able to hear me. So, plan for today. I got new valve cover gasket. The fittings on the valve cover should be done and dry. The lines are made. All the way to the catch can. Okay, so it was a little bit of a struggle to get the cover out without taking the cold side of the turbo off, but it's doable. So now I'm going to put the new gasket in place, and I still have the cover that I need to put here. It took a minute to clean this up. It's like way better than it was before. And I actually used this stuff, which I've never used before. Spray 9. I heard it was good, and I had used it on this, and I was really surprised with the results. So before I slap the cover on, I still need to put this little cover here. And what I'm going to do, which I don't know if it's completely recommended, but I'm going to go and do a little bead of gasket maker around this. And then I'm also going to red Loctite the screws that go in here to hold this in place. One thing to be mindful of is this is threading into aluminum, so you can go kind of tight, but not too tight because it's easy to pull the threads. So now we grab our fresh gasket. And you're supposed to put RTV in a couple of spots. So everywhere that there's a mating face, so where the Vanos comes in contact with the head, you're supposed to put some there, and then the back dowels. Just gonna do a little bit. So I'm pretty sure this gasket does have like a wire reinforcement like in the center of it. So this one's a little wavy, but once the cover's on and pressed on and torqued, it should hold. So I'm going to try and put this on without knocking the gasket out of place. So I'm pretty sure I've already filmed torquing down a valve cover before putting that on, so I'm gonna fire these out real quick and then we'll be right back. Okay, so cover's on, coil packs are in, everything's torqued to spec. Gonna see, hopefully my new holes here will actually line up. They should. I tested it off the car. So as you can see, there's a little bit of fitment issue because of that metal aluminum plate that I have down there. I do plan on upgrading this to a actual full metal cover that's available through, there's a few people who sell them online, but haven't taken the chance to order one yet. So for now, I just kind of set this one in place, bolt it down, and that kind of holds it in place. I'm happy to see that these line up. So I'm gonna grab the bolts or the nuts to hold this in place, grab a oil cap, and then we'll see if the AN lines line up. Okay, so moment of truth. Let's see how we do here. Which is which? Doesn't really matter. They're not directional, but I planned it to be this one here, this one here. All right. Now is probably the best way for me to explain the oil catch can setup. So when you boost a car, it causes a lot of positive crankcase pressure. Being that this was originally a naturally aspirated car, it does have a crankcase ventilation right here, but for boosted applications, it's too small. So a lot of people, they'll just vent this to atmosphere and say you're good to go, but a lot of people who do this, and a friend of mine included, realize that it's not enough. And what ends up happening is you end up pushing oil out of seals like valve cover gasket and other places. So to help with this, what I used to do was run a oil cap breather. So I was venting the atmosphere here and here. It's great. It works. However, it wafts a lot of engine smell, odor into the car. And I found that I would smell like a campfire oftentimes getting out of the car. So it works, but the best way to do it is to evacuate the pressure out. So what some people do as well is they'll just do 2 -10s and go to a catch can that also vents to atmosphere. So what this will do is any sediment or extra, I guess, thicker amounts of oil, which there shouldn't really be any coming out of there, gets trapped into the catch can, and then you can empty it out later. However, there then is a filter venting to atmosphere here anyways. So the reason I didn't opt for that is because I figured, like, I just thought about it, and to me, logically, that would mean that it's just going to be relocating that odor that the motor is putting out from here to the catch can, which isn't solving the problem that I wanted to solve, which is the smell. So I stepped it up a little bit. I believe this is called a closed loop, and I have it here in my downpipe going to here on the outlet side of the catch can. So this is going to cause a vacuum when the car is running or in higher RPMs, and that will help pull the positive pressure out from the motor. So that should help everything breathe, help maintain the gaskets, and also, since it's going to be venting through the exhaust, well, it's just going to mix with that and not cause odor in the car. So yeah, that's my long-winded explanation of why I have this set up the way that I do. Some people will, instead of pulling a vacuum at the downpipe, they will pull a vacuum in front of the turbo here, which, like, that is an option, but what I'm told is that is better off for cars with a mass airflow sensor versus a MAP sensor, which is what I have, manifold air pressure, I think it stands for. So another thing that I've heard of as well is when you're pulling it back into here, since this is effectively your intake for your car now when you're on a turbo car, what can happen is any oil vapors can cause pre-detonation because it mixes with your air, causing maybe a bad air-fuel ratio. It's just dirty air. So I'm eliminating all of that and doing it vacuum through the exhaust. So yeah, that was my long-winded explanation. And so now I'm going to clear off all this stuff and hope that this doesn't interfere with the hood being able to close. So that's really the last step for the catch can setup. So let's clear this off and give that a go. Yeah, I can actually feel it putting pressure right here. And it's just about to close. So I don't want to push too hard because it's going to cause like a dent into the hood. Wonder if we can actually see where it was touching. Not really. But so I'm going to swap these out, swap the lines around, and give that a go. Okay, let's try this again. Fingers crossed. That's it. Wow. I don't know if this picks up on camera, but I can flex the hood here and then touch the fittings. I'd say that's like ½ an inch space. So it's enough to close the hood without damaging it and complete the setup. So my last outro sucked. I'm gonna redo this. So here it is, finished. Clears the hood, just barely. Everything's tightened up. Now that it's all assembled and I can get a good visual on it, I'm seeing that, well, one thing I'm going to do is get a clamp to hold these together and try to pull them away from the downpipe. Another thing I'm probably going to do is get like a heat wrap for the hoses by a company called DEI. It's the same company that makes the wrap that I used on my ignition wires. So I'm probably going to do that from, yeah, pretty much the entirety of the lines here. They make a nice black one as well, so it's going to still look aesthetically pleasing. So I'm going to do that there, and then on the Venturi one as well. So yeah, things coming up. I still need to make a new cover for here, which I'm planning on doing shortly. A few other things. I still need to finish the heat. I know that's kind of, that whole series has been dead for a little bit. I'm still slacking on ordering the hoses for that because I got excited about the catch can setup. So yeah, I need to do that. Still need to finish reassembling my interior and probably a bunch of other things, but it's not really coming to mind. I do have a couple of other, I guess, surprises. I don't want to just say them yet. So there's a couple things to come to the channel. And right now I have a set of wheels for, that's one thing I'll let you guys in on, is I have a set of wheels currently getting refinished for the daily, which I think you might enjoy. So yeah, that's the new outro. So yeah, have a good one.